Today, we're talking about lifestyle choices, agency, responsibility, and freedom. The more opportunities I give my dogs to say no, the more likely they are to say yes when it's really important. Hi, I'm Kathy Kowalik, and I believe that our dogs connect us to the heart and soul of what really matters in life. So hang out, and we'll take a deep dive into the human-dog connection and explore strategies that will inspire you to create legendary, enlightened partnership with your dog. This is the Enlightened by Dogs podcast. Well, hello, my friends. Today we're talking about lifestyle choices, agency, responsibility, and freedom. It's pretty cool. The more opportunities I give my dogs to say no, the more likely they are to say yes when it's really important. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Like, how do we do that? How is that our lifestyle? And like, what exactly does that look like in real life? So I'm going to give you some examples. Now, I totally get that in a world where it's like a badge of honor to have a well-trained, obedient dog, that giving our dogs the freedom to say no may seem a little weird. I mean, I totally get that. But you know what? My badge of honor is that my dogs choose to be attentive and responsive and responsible, and that they trust me to be their guide. And so they don't really need to be trained to be obedient. Like that, I think, is a much more worthy badge of honor. If we're going to be wearing badges of honor, I don't even know if we need to do that either. But I think you know what I'm saying. Now, I do get that feedback from, people that I meet, random strangers, the vet's office, workers that come over, places I take my dogs. I get that kind of feedback all the time. Like, oh my gosh, your dogs listen to you so good. They're so well trained, and so, so that's not to say, I want to be clear about that. It's not to say that my dogs are like, crazy, well, okay, maybe they are crazy, but I mean, they're not, doing their own thing, running amok, and generally being a pain in the butt everywhere we go. Like, we're not bringing chaos along with us. You know what I mean? And so we can have attentive, responsive, and responsible dogs through living a partnership lifestyle. I mean, that's what we do, right? And so it's a perfect time for me, to talk about it because it's on my mind. And of course, I know many BPs, our brilliant partners. We call ourselves BPs, affectionately for short. And so many of our BPs listen to this podcast regularly. It's part of, their ongoing immersion into a partnership lifestyle. This will help you BPs. But even if you're not a BP, dare I say yet, you'll get so much out of this because this principle of choice and responsibility and freedom is good for anyone that wants to live an enlightened and connected life with their dogs. Okay, makes sense? So if you've been listening to the podcast, then you're familiar with, the name, game, and the dance invitation and what that means, what that looks like, etc., right? Because I talk about that quite a bit. This week, I really want to dive into more of the way of thinking about how this freedom and responsibility as a lifestyle, how that all ties in and the impact that really has on our dog's willingness to say yes. Okay. So I think this idea of giving our dogs choices, a choice to say no or yes as a lifestyle, it really goes back to our clarity questions. And so you've heard me talk about this. It's one of our core partnership principles that we need to get very, very clear on why we do things, why we ask for things, why we role model certain things, why we train certain things, the big why. And of course, once we know why, then we can move into the, how and what, etc. But the why is really important. And so when we put this into the context of giving our dogs choice, it starts to make a lot of sense. And so our clarity question of why, it's like, well, why do I want this thing that I'm asking my dog, or that I'm thinking of asking my dog, that I'm potentially going to ask of my dog, or that I want to, train my dog, whatever, right? And so why do I want this thing that I'm asking? Or do I? Right? So it all starts with that question, because that question leads us to have a lot more clarity about what it is that we actually want. And that clarity is what leads us to be able to create more and more opportunities in our lifestyle to give our dogs that feeling of being in control, that feeling of agency, that that feeling of freedom, and that gives them more responsibility, etc. And all of that leads to more trust and confidence and a more brilliant lifestyle. Okay, that makes sense? So we can almost think about this as like sort of following a give our dog a choice protocol. And so here's how I think of it. This is how my brain processes this. I think about this series of little micro steps: connect, observe, and decide. Right. So when I'm in a place where I'd love to create an opportunity for my dog to say yes or no, to have the freedom to do that and to feel responsible as a result of having the freedom to do that, which just leads to all the things we want, trust and confidence and resiliency and all the things, right? And so connect, observe, decide. And so I'm connecting with my dog, I'm connecting with myself, I'm connecting with the circumstance, the environment, etc., and really strongly with my dog and what is happening in the moment. And so I'm observing, right? So what's happening? What's going on? What is my dog doing? What's my dog in the middle of? How are they feeling? Do they show any signs of noticing that I'm about to ask them to do something, or considering asking them to do something? Or are they so absorbed in the thing that they're doing that they don't have a clue, right? And so I'm observing what's going on, right? I'm observing myself, how I'm feeling. I'm observing my needs, right? As well as my dog and the circumstances, right? So connect, observe, and then I decide, right? So that's the next thing is now I decide. I've already have on top of mind my thing I want to ask. And so I already know my why, my big why. Okay. And I'll give you some examples of this. So I already know my why. I already know why I want to ask this of my dog and what I'd love the outcome to be. And so that is going to inform whether I ask, if I don't ask, how I prepare to ask, the way I ask, etc. Right. So there's a lot of little micro things that are going to be happening inside of me, that a lot of which my dog is actually going to be able to pick up on if they're at all attentive and responsive. Okay, so connect, observe, decide. So the decision is, shall I go ahead and ask, or shall I decide not to even ask, right? And so this is like a breakdown of the 95% rule in a way, right? Okay. Or the other choice is, shall I prepare myself, my dogs, the circumstances, the environment? Shall I prepare for the ask? So that's where we start. So that's kind of what I would consider the giving my dogs a choice protocol. All right. And so let's dive into some examples of like what that might look like in my everyday life with which I assume is pretty typical. I don't think I live an extraordinary life in any way. Certainly different from many of you, right? Because I live in a rural area on a farm, which has its own good things and bad things, right? But yet not extraordinary in any way. So I think that I believe that my examples will help you to pull this idea into your own life. All right. So some simple things like my dogs are outside. So let's say like right now, I have dogs. I don't even know, like 4 or 5 dogs, 3, 4 or 5 dogs out in the backyard. I just put them out before I started recording this podcast. And so they're out in the backyard. I have a fenced backyard, and they're out there. I have no idea what they're doing because I can't see them. So let's say that, I'm done recording the podcast and I'm going to go out and I'm going to see if my dogs are ready to come back in. I'm going to step to the door and I'm going to look out and I'm going to connect, with myself, and make observations before I decide, right? I'm going to say, well, my purpose, my why is to discover, in this case, my dog's choice, right? I don't actually have a preference for if they come in or not in this particular case, okay? And it would be different if I did have a preference, okay? So let's say that I don't have a preference, that my why is simply I'm considering the ask to see if my dogs are happy, safe, calm, and happy out in the yard, or if they would prefer to come in, right? So I'm going to do this. So I'm going to step up to the door. I'm going to look outside, and I'm going to connect with the dogs, connect with myself, connect with the environment. I'm going to observe everything. What are they doing? What are they involved in? And I'm going to observe, like, are they looking, like when I go to the door and someone sees me go to the door, so it's actually like a sliding glass door so they could see me. If it wasn't, I would open the door. Like if they were in the front yard, I would have to open the door because it's a solid door. And so that's my first observation. Did anyone notice that I stepped up to the door or that I opened the door? Did anyone pay any attention at all? If they didn't, that's telling me that they're busy doing something, that they're occupied with whatever dog thing that they're doing, right? And of course, I can tell what that is when I observe. I'm observing, then I'll connect with and observe each dog, right? And so if I only had one, that would be a shorter process. Since if I have like 4 or 5 out there, it's going to take me a second longer, or, this goes very brief. It's a very quick observation. So a total of 2 seconds for 5 dogs, right? So it's very quick. And so I'm observing each individual. Does anyone look like they're not feeling happy out there, that they would, they would prefer to come in, like, or are they all feeling happy and they're playing, or they're just laying in the shade and they look quite content, etc. Right? And so I'm going to get the general observation for all the dogs as a group, and then individual dogs. I'm going to make these observations. Okay. Now I'm going to decide, should I ask or should I not ask? And should I prepare for the ask? And let's say in this particular case, I step out there. So I've already said I don't actually have a preference. I don't need them to come in. There's no compelling reason for them to come in, right? And so that's our starting place. And then I've connected and observed. And so now I can say, well, if they all look really content and they're enjoying their time outside, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to step away from the door and come back inside and keep working. Okay. So that's the first thing. So then in that case, my choice would be, I'm not going to ask. Let's say, on the other hand, that I had a preference. Let's say that I needed them to come in. Maybe it was starting to rain, or maybe there was some, I don't know, like last week or a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago, we had the landscapers come in. Maybe I needed the dogs to come in so that a worker could come into the backyard, for example, or maybe I needed to go somewhere and I need to get the dogs into the house. So before I leave, so let's say that I had a compelling reason to get them into the house. Okay. And so that's my why, So let's say that I have to leave to go somewhere. I have an errand to run and I need the dogs in the house. Okay. So now that's my why. I need my dogs to come in the house. That's why I'm considering the ask. Okay. And what I want is for them to come in the house. That's the desired outcome that I want to have, right? So I already have that in my mind. And so I'm going to approach the door completely differently than I did with my other ask or my other potential ask, which is I'm just checking to see if they want to come in. I don't care, right? So this time I do care, right? I do want them to come in. And so what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to have a completely different demeanor, and I'm going to open the door. I'm going to approach and open the door with a completely different intention, congruency, etc. And so I'm going to be in alignment with my communication, right? So my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, my body language, my facial expression, my movement, my 3 Ps, all of that is going to congruently communicate to my dogs that it's time to come in. Okay. So I'm not going to leave any doubt in their mind. I am not going to present the opportunity for them to say no, although of course they have a choice. They always have that choice to say no. And so in this case, my protocol is going to be prepare for the ask, right? So our 3 options are ask, don't ask, prepare for the ask. So in this case, I'm going to prepare for the ask. Okay. And so I'm going out there with full congruency, full intention, everything aligned in all the ways I'm communicating that something's up, something we are going to be on the move as a family group. Okay. And so that's what my dogs are going to get from me. So I'm going to open the door with a little bit of quick movement. I'm going to step out there and I'm going to say, hey guys, what's up? What are you guys doing? Right. And I'm going to call that, I'm going to be stepping out with a lot of action, a lot of upbeat, happy, interested, curious energy. And they're going to go, oh, hi, Mom. How are you? I'm about 99.9% sure that when I do that, they're all going to come running over to me because I am communicating. We're on the move, right? We're going to do something as a group together, right? That's my intention. And so they get that from me versus the first time I just quietly and calmly stand there and I may or may not open the door. If I do open the door, it's very calmly and slowly and quietly. You know what I mean? They know the difference right away. And so that's my preparation. Okay, now I'm going to connect with all the dogs and I'm going to observe each of them very quickly, like in 1 second. Are they all on board? Are they all attentive and responsive? And in most cases, that's going to be yes. And I'm going to say, hey, come on, we got to go in the house. And Mom's got to go. And I'm talking to them. I'm chatting with them while we're on the move. And so we're all on, come on, guys. And so we all just come back into the house together as a group. And I close the door and I look out and I go, oh, I'm just making this up as a possible example because this actually happens. And I'm like, oh, well, look at that. Katie decided not to come in with us. Okay. So I've got the door closed already. It's like a screen door, sliding screen door. She's still outside. The other ones are in the house with me. And so here's what I'm going to do. So now it's a whole new choice protocol, right? So connect, observe, decide. Okay. So I'm connecting with her and I'm looking, oh, she's a little hesitant. She's not sure. I'm observing her body language. I'm observing her facial expressions. I'm observing the other dogs and myself. And I'm deciding, okay, I'm not going to ask her to come in right now because she's telling me, I'm not so sure. So I understand why she's not sure. And so the reason she's not sure is because she doesn't really like coming into a crowd, right? She doesn't like the chaos of all the dogs coming into the house at once. And so I know that about her. I know that about some of my dogs, right? And so I'm going to honor her for that. And I'm going to take the other dogs all the way up through the sunroom into the rest of the house. I'm going to close the inside door. And then I'm going to go back outside. And so that was preparation for the ask, right? So for that next ask with Katie. Okay. So now I go out with, again, I'm in alignment, I'm congruent, and I'm preparing for the next ask. And I open the door, I'm happy, I smile at her, I'm making a connection, I'm observing. Is she feeling like she's going to come in? Does she look like, did she run off? Did she go to the other gate? Like, I don't really want to come in. Come on, let's go do something instead, right? So what is she doing? If she's just kind of milling around, casually, whatever, I'm going to go ahead and ask her, because I know that the only reason she didn't come in is because she didn't want to come into the chaos of the crowd, right? And so now I'm prepared, I've connected, I've observed, and I've decided. So now I'm going to ask her, I'm going to connect with her, smile, and say, all right, come on, Goo-Goo. So that's why I call her Goo-Goo, and or KK, and she'll come in and she'll go, she'll just jump right in and she'll be really happy. And she'll probably jump on the couch. We have a little love seat in the sunroom. She'll probably jump there rather than jump into the house with the other dogs, because she's more comfortable that way. And I'm going to honor her for that. Now imagine how this whole thing could have transpired into something completely different if I did not honor her or any of my dogs for how they feel, for what's going on, etc. Right? You can just imagine this whole thing could have went in a completely different direction. Okay. And so ultimately, because I follow that choice protocol of connect, observe, decide, ask, don't ask, prepare for the ask. Now I have all my dogs in the house, and now I can go ahead and go leave on my errand. So woohoo! Job well done, Mom, right? Pat on the back. Okay. That was me being a brilliant partner that my dogs deserve. Okay. All right. So that's one example. And I'm going to continue with more examples next week in part 2. So make sure that you tune in. It'll be released next Monday. It'll be episode 248. All right. We'll see you then. Bye-bye for now, and be brilliant. Thanks so much for listening. And hey, if you would like to work with me so that I can help you discover the missing pieces you need so that you and your dog can finally be happy and enjoy life together, then head on over to dancingheartsdogacademy.com and request your invitation to join us in the Brilliant Partners Academy when the doors open for the next enrollment. See you next time, and remember, a brilliant partnership with your dog makes your whole life brilliant.